What about double standards? How would you guys define double standards? I would describe it as, again, this is just to get our bearings when we talk about these things, that we have like an understanding. So I see double standards as things that are done by either a man or a woman, that is accepted by either a man or a woman, but when the opposite sex does it, then it's wrong, or it's looked upon in a bad way.
Exactly what it is. I think that double standards are made to kind of try to make ourselves feel better about something. To excuse
Interesting.
our behavior, like, oh, I can do it, but you can. So kind of like that self-justification. I think that's the root of double standards.
Interesting.
Someone somewhere was like, well, I can do it, but you can't, and I'm stronger.
And then the stereotypes, obviously, is just things that we attribute to certain groups of people, you know. For example,
Black people can't swim.
You can't swim.
But my dad
exactly.
can swim, though. But I
Can he really?
Yeah, he grew up
He
on an island.
was born on an
He
island.
grew up around water. He better know how to swim.
He better, yeah, exactly.
Although, you know that a lot of islanders don't know how to swim.
Really?
Yeah, they don't.
Do you know how to swim?
Yes.
I know how to swim because we were taught how to swim here.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, we were classically trained.
The last time I legitimately swam was like March 23rd, 1996.
Not true.
The day before I was born.
You're swimming in your
Remember
mom's
when
belly.
we
Swimming
went
in my mother.
to the Dells? You hopped in the water and swam a little bit.
He did?
Last summer?
I'm not counting that
I
as
thought you were
legit, though.
surviving. He swam.
I was doing elementary backstroke.
I'm trying to
I
help
did
him
better
out.
than.
Hey, that's a stroke.
I
That's
did better
swimming.
than Lida.
Lida doesn't know how to swim.
Well, exactly. So I was not really saying much.
Well, I mean, you know how to survive in the water. That's what. You know elementary backstroke.
I mean, for like maybe 20 seconds.
Yeah, but you
maybe.
have,
Okay, that's
Okay, whatever.
enough
You throw
swimming
me
talk.
if a ship sinks.
you'll be fine.
Let's talk a little bit about double standards.
All right.
We defined it earlier as something that when it's done by a man, but when it's considered good, or vice versa, and then when it's done by the other gender, it's considered bad or something like that.
Yeah.
Abby, what is an example of a double standard that just grinds your gears?
I mean, Michael mentioned it earlier, where it's like you have the player versus the hoe, where it's like a guy who sleeps around. It's kind of like he has to. But like if the girl, it's like they say in
How dare
Spanish,
you.
like, yeah, how dare you? Or it's like, tiene, like in Spanish, they have terms like tiene calle or ya está usada, which is, in, Michael, let me translate.
She's for the streets?
For the streets, and she's already used.
Used up.
So like it just goes into like that. It plays into the all women's value is just what their virginity and like keeping themselves, whereas like guys can just do it because they're just guys and they can do it with however many people that they want. And it's just like, you know, women's virtue is super valuable, but so is a man's, and women want that
Yeah,
too.
I never could understand that double standard because, like, I know guys who are like that. I know girls who are like that. To me, you know, it's both.
I mean,
it's both vice. So I'm just like,
It makes
why?
sense from the perspective of women want to date up and are willing to compromise sharing a guy, whereas men don't usually date up and aren't willing to compromise.
That's true. Women are and I think a lot of times
That
we are
is true.
taught
That's
to
biblical
compromise
right there.
because of lacking, but we're not getting into that. Like for example, if a man cheats, like he wants his one girl to forgive him, I won't do it again. But if his girl cheats, I don't ever want to see you again.
And you're saying that.
And the girls like can be forgive me, but it's like guys, that's like an unpardonable sin for men.
Well, you can see from the perspective of, for example, women are the ones who gatekeep sex, period.
That's true.
So
I guess
if
in a
women
way.
are the ones who
I've never
gatekeep
heard
sex,
a guy say, unless they just weren't attracted to the person.
I'm sure it exists,
But you
but it's
never-
not the rule.
I've never heard a guy say, "Yeah,
Like
I'm withholding
negate.
sex for my wife." That just sounds so weird
Right.
to me.
So if women
It's
are
always
the
the
ones who
woman.
gatekeep sex, you had to be more like, we had to convince a girl to do that, whereas you had to welcome a guy in and
I
let
had
him
to
in.
convince myself to do it. Well, because if I'm gay, people, man, I had to convince myself. But at the end of the day, they both have the same weight. You each made a choice.
In the sight of God, you are correct.
You each made it, and we're a Christian. You each made a choice. So, like, guys should be able to forgive a girl just like girls usually forgive guys.
I can't disagree with you
there. So that's
there.
one example. What about you guys?
Another
what do you
one is something that I guess I've noticed, and I don't care if it's a double standard or not, but I've seen it in my life in one way or another. I'm not co-signing it 100%, but it's the fact that the older, like when it comes to age and getting older, men usually reach their prime, whereas women, the older they get, physically they start losing their prime. Now, I said specifically that I don't co-sign it 100%, and Abby's laughing at me because this is usually talked about in the context of the sexual marketplace. So as you get older, you are more attractive to women because you are more secure, you have more money, you have more direction in your life.
You're more mature.
More mature. So the things that make you attractive, the older you get, the more that you have that. Whereas for men, what attracts women is youth and beauty. Yeah, exactly.
What attracts men to women
that's my point.
is
As
youth
for
and
men,
beauty.
what attracts them is youth and beauty. So the older that you get as a woman, the value in terms of specifically, and I'm only talking about this one area, physical, you lose out on that youthful beauty that you once had.
I was gonna say it's a lot harder for an older woman to date than it is for an older man.
Let me say this before I lose my train of thought, right? Because men want respect and they want you to appreciate them.
So let me date the girl
that
who doesn't
an
know
older
anything.
woman knows you don't know. Well, everybody's different.
Knows how to treat a man.
Respect a man better. Would know how to appreciate a man better than a younger girl. She's prettier, but this girl is gonna treat you right, and that's what brings out the masculinity in you.
I would say in some cases you're right, but in a lot of cases you're wrong because the older that the woman gets, the more experience that they have, and in a lot of times the more jaded that they are.
That's what I was gonna say. Why are you single?
So the older they get, the more of the evil of the world they've seen. Yeah. So then they start to treat men the same way. Yeah. They've gone through a lot of things.
That could
so
also
then they
happen
look at you and they're like,
that could also happen too.
Like you're just as bad as my ex-boyfriend, or you even go into dating with that mentality. Yeah. So in other words, we can't even start with a clean slate because you're already starting from like we're accessing a side of you, or we're only seeing you that's jaded, that's been hurt, and now we're like, I'd rather have somebody who hasn't gone through that and who can appreciate the masculinity in me, which you're saying that young women can't do, but I disagree. Young women can.
Yeah, but I'm talking about that respect thing that you wanted. Young women can't respect men? Respect less. Younger people respect less, and it's becoming more and more.
But you're the one who said that women mature more faster, and which is correct.
That's true.
So a quote unquote younger woman, and by quote unquote younger woman, I'm meaning like minimum 20 years old. Like that would be a more mature 20-year-old than would a 20-year-old man be.
All right.
So I think your assertion is incorrect, and
I think it's partially correct. I think it's partially correct.
I agree. I think it's partially, but mostly incorrect.
Because the world, everybody's different. But I really like how I heard it once from Matthew Hussey, where nobody gets free lunch.
That's true.
Like, yeah, sure, you got older and you can get a young girl, but you're sacrificing something.
Yes.
Like you.
There's a lot of sacrifice.
Like there's something like you ain't gonna get it all. Like sure, like you can hold out for the prettier girl. But you're missing out on something.
I mean, we talked about this in our second episode, or 2 weeks ago, which was the one on who do I date, and we were talking about how I would balk at somebody born in 2000 and something. Mm-hmm. So what I would sacrifice or what I would lose would be what?
Young.
No, I wouldn't lose on youth, but I'd lose on experience. I lose on references. I lose on just life experience that she wouldn't
losing
have
on someone to relate to
have.
And stuff like that.
So that is a loss that some men are willing to take to gain beauty, and
To gain
youth.
beauty.
And I mean, let's be honest, the younger you are, the more, I mean,
Because
hold on, time out.
I was gonna say, Jose,
If I
where
say,
are you
like-
going with this?
Okay,
Pause.
forgive me for saying this word, but like the younger you are, the stronger you can imprint on like your partner.
oh, that's true, and
That's
that goes
true.
into power, I guess. Yeah,
So like a younger girl would imprint more on you, and vice versa.
And I also, because like for example, there's this statistic that women reach their sexual prime, like they're like as they get older, in sexuality they are better.
In like sex, you mean?
Well,
I mean,
I would
well-
think it was the opposite. Oh, well,
No. I mean, experience fine.
Well,
like
yeah, I know, yeah.
the
No, yeah, I
actual
think that's
physical
true.
act.
Like you are,
From what
like,
makes sense.
like
from what I've heard,
like
yeah,
as
I
you
think
get
that's true.
older,
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
get older, it like 30 is like
Your peak.
yeah. So it's like women seen as like, oh, you lose value, but you're gaining value
In the bedroom?
Yeah,
She knows
You're-
more
But again,
moves.
You'd have to ask
But
the guy
then-
for that trade-off.
But then,
of
yeah,
like,
there's always a trade-off. Whatever is more important to
do you want somebody who's excellent in the bedroom but has a lot of experience, or do you want somebody who's
has a lot of life experience.
AKA trauma.
Not necessarily, because we all have life experiences, and
Yeah.
if you work through your experience,
But again,
you worked
How
out
did
your
she
trauma.
get so
But
good?
again,
That's what I want.
like some men may not value like an amazing sex life and what do you call it, in the bedroom as much as they
As
would
a trophy
a
wife.
beautiful
As-
wife.
as a
And
trophy
she
girl.
doesn't have to be a trophy wife. She can be a really smart woman who just happens to be a lot younger.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't apply for Adventists.
Okay.
Because we
We believe
don't have
yes,
the
but we shouldn't.
idea of like
We shouldn't.
like
but-
by the time ideally we get to marriage, our bodies count as zero. So there is no such thing as
Body count.
reaching your sexual prime in
Or,
your 30s as an
having a
Adventist
woman who's excellent
unless
in
you
the
had
bed.
experience.
But I think with that statistic, they were talking about
in that
libido.
case- oh, interesting. Okay, so not even in the bedroom itself. You're talking about libido.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, just like the desire.
I think I don't remember all of it, but it's like it goes higher.
All right. Going back to stereotypes. I was from a young age told by my father. I think I had gotten into an altercation with a girl who was a friend of mine. Didn't hit her. Never hit a girl. But my dad told me, Michael, son, you know how he talks. My son. This is America. Like, I don't care what the girl does. If she hits you or smack you, run away. That's what he told me. It's like, you're always going to be wrong, especially as a black man. Like, just don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Pull a
in
Joseph.
America, it doesn't matter what the woman did. If you hit her, you're in the wrong. America will lock you up. That's what he always. I can't even tell you
I
how many
could,
times
like,
I've
just
heard
hear
that.
him saying that.
exactly. You've heard. I'm sure I'm not the only guy he's told that to. You know, my dad. He was a father figure to a lot of
Yeah.
his students, and yeah, he would tell that to guys. Especially because they always come to him about their girlfriend problems. But like, obviously, don't condone violence. Especially, I don't believe in hitting women. But I feel like women use that to their advantage.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
especially my
Unhealthily.
boy
That's-
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
Mr. I mean, I don't
Free
know the
my
whole
boy
thing.
Jonathan.
Yeah, free my
Oh,
boy
is he in
Mr.
jail?
Majors. Yeah, well, he got canceled.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, 'cause he got at it with a woman. Right?
Well,
Do you know
I think
why-
he was trying to defend himself, right?
So, yeah, well,
But-
actually, you know why he got so the verdict was mixed. So there was no intent to harm her or anything like that, but he did get convicted for putting her back in the car. Like she was chasing him, like
She
she was
even said,
grabbing
like,
him,
it wasn't
and
her fault,
he
right? Or
grabbed
he didn't
her,
do anything.
and he put her back in the car, and then she started chasing him again, and then he just ran away and like completely just kept running and kept running.
Did she have any bruises on her?
Wow.
And then, but again, it was for that fact
For putting her back in the car. So what
Yes.
do they call that verdict?
Like,
Well, it was domestic violence. That's
How's it
the
domestic
thing.
violence?
I mean, I don't think it was
Was she
domestic
a white
violence. I
woman?
think it was
I
like
mean,
battery or
we
assault
can
or
probably
something
put
like
that
that.
up right there, but was she white?
Like a misdemeanor assault, I think it was.
Was
That-
she white?
something.
Yeah,
Then-
she is
then-
white.
yeah,
I
that
think
on top.
I think I heard. I don't know much about it, but I think I heard that she was white.
But yeah, like
And that's not to defend everything that Jonathan Majors
not
has
saying-
done or anything
no,
like that.
But like you can see the double standard. That's
Yeah,
a
that
huge
is
double
a huge
standard.
double
like
standard.
women can beat up all they man all day, and it's kind of looked down upon. Like if a man calls the police because his woman is beating him, or like, and they see him beat up, the man's gonna feel like, well, he's gonna look like not of a man, right? And so a lot of it, you know, they won't say.
Yeah,
right?
That's why.
But
I'm
a man hits a woman.
now it's a problem.
It is a huge. I mean, it is a problem. Let's not get it wrong. Like,
yeah,
you know, men should never put their hand on a woman in any way.
And nobody should any hit.
Unless you
nobody
love her.
should ever
no one
hit
should ever
anybody.
Do it. Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that?
That
like,
nobody should ever hit anybody?
No. So
Well,
like if a
double
guy,
standard.
like, so if a guy's getting hit by a woman and he hits her back and then she starts crying and acting like the victim, how do you?
I think she is the victim.
I think that.
yeah.
What do you mean? How is she the victim?
No. Yeah, you're right.
I think that nobody should hit anybody.
Yeah.
And everybody's responsible for their decision. So if you shouldn't lie. So like if I'm a woman and I hit somebody, I hit you. If you hit me back, that was your choice to hit me back. So we're both equally responsible. The woman, you could say, was the instigator because she hit first. But yet the guy's still responsible for his choice.
It's called self-defense, right? It's self-defense, right? Or no?
It's self-defense. Yes, it is self-defense.
Thank you. I mean, I just wanted to get that on the record.
Yes, it is self-defense.
I still don't think you should hit a woman. Like, there's no.
It's self-defense.
I don't disagree with you, Michael. I'm just talking about in principle.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing with self-defense.
Push your way.
Right? Like,
just don't.
Like, a man is stronger, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you just walk away? Why are you? It's like hitting a kid, right? Like, for example, like with a kid. If a kid hits you. Are you gonna hit the kid back?
No.
Yes.
Because he's weaker.
If it's my kid, yes.
Because if it's like a random ass kid, you're not gonna hit him back, right? You're gonna walk away. You're gonna be an adult.
I mean,
about it.
I think you.
So like,
I don't disagree with
I
you
think
there.
men are, since they're physically stronger.
I think a lot of women would disagree with you with the characterization of women as.
If she's a teenager and he wants to fight,
children.
we're gonna go
I guess what I equated to was strength-wise. Men,
but again,
because
it's not my fault that I'm stronger than the majority of women.
No, I never said it was your fault, but it's what you do with it, like self-defense wise. Like, for example, if a woman could easily, like, let's say if she's getting taken, if she could easily just do this, she wouldn't have to do this, you know? But like, for example, a guy is stronger, so he can just be like the Hulk and just go, right?
Yeah. But again, if you leave bruises on her arms, assault.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair, but this is not a good statement.
Or like
and
if
it's
somebody,
a petty statement, but we gotta get one. We have so many against women. We gotta get one.
I disagree. I think that's so.
There's so many against women.
Men go to war. Men go to war. We have to die and
suffer. We just talked about it. Hoe versus player.
No. I'm talking about something that. Like that's
negative
connotation. That's societally
like a
wrong.
Negative connotation. Negative one.
But I'm talking about something that women have that they don't go to jail for, or that they go to jail for like a double standard. Because in this double standard, let us get one. That one is not she's a hoe, and then you get labeled a hoe. It's no, we have to physically do time. It's like now you're a felon. Yeah. Now that physically,
I see what you're saying,
and that categorically changes somebody's life.
I see what you're saying.
Whereas being labeled a hoe
just go to another
somebody's life. So you cannot say
the implications. I guess I see what you're saying.
So my point
the implications
is
of that one are very high.
Yeah,
and I don't think it should be one. Period. I don't think that.
Well, there shouldn't be double standards, period, because double standards excuse behavior. I
think double standards only exist because gender roles are a thing, and that people don't want to accept, the traditional gender roles. But it is because that the gender roles exist that we have double standards. I'll give you an example. Feminine, like a guy who cries a lot is considered he's effeminate. He's gay. He's a little, beep. But instead of a peep, put a B in front of it. Whereas women who cry, that's just normal. Again,
what happened to her?
That's tied to the gender role that men are supposed to be the protector. So if he's crying, he can't protect you when he's crying and being being defenseless. Mm-hmm. Now we're back. Mm-hmm. Sex. If women like sex a lot, they're considered to be prude
Prudes.
and like,
Yeah.
oh my God, she's easy or whatever. Whereas men, that's just absolutely natural. Again, it goes back to the gender role of guys are supposed to be
But
the
they do
leaders
say-
when it comes to sex, and women are supposed to
So
But
then-
they
support and
say
things like
men
that.
view sex as more of a physical act. So I feel like just naturally,
And women see it
it's
more as
just-
an
It's
emotion.
It's just more natural, I guess, for men to have. But I don't know. I feel like today, I just be hearing.
My point is that a lot of these double standards are tied
It's-
to
I've heard statistics that it's like 50
Yeah.
wait 50-50 what? I missed
with
that.
like sex drive, like. But I
Well, to be honest, I'm sorry, not masculinity. Testosterone levels are going down in men.
yeah,
And the
that's
animal-
that is
another
a
thing too.
problem.
In the animal kingdom, though, one male, like a male lion, will have sex like 20 times a day.
No wonder they're so tired.
Yeah, that's why they sleep all day. And the
why-
woman,
exactly. No wonder they're so
they
tired.
have a harem.
Things
They're
exhausting.
just going. I think even more times than that. I think it's like hundreds of times.
But
It's
yeah,
just-
I think I heard it once. Don't quote me on any of this, but that a man can compete with a woman that has a higher sex drive.
Can't compete.
No, women when they're at the extreme that they have a higher sex drive, they are maniacs compared to men.
I can see that.
And that makes sense
I
because
think that's because there's less of a release.
Well, no. Well, I mean,
Okay,
like,
we're
ju-
going
just
into
physic-
dark territory
This
now.
isn't
It's not
dark. This is
territory,
real.
But I think double standards do branch out from gender roles because
Yes.
we have them,
Yeah.
and they're taken in an unhealthy way. Because double standards, I feel like the root is to excuse behavior, whether it be from a woman or from a man. They
Yes.
excuse behavior, which thus makes them wrong.
Yeah, when it comes to excusing that behavior.
So you're in the dating scene, it's important to know these double standards so that
you can keep the same energy
and you have an
not
opinion
blame-
about them.
Yeah, that's true. Why is that important? Well, I think it's important because
think it's important
you
to
need
have
to
an
have
opinion.
these conversations because you're gonna come up with them, or just I'm sorry, you're going to what do you call it? Encounter them with your partner or with your
Yeah,
future partner,
and
and you
that
need to know.
And that goes play into communication. You need to have that curiosity mindset as to why does that double standard exist? Like, how have I seen it in my life? How can I become better because of it? It's like through that analytical process of double standards, I feel like we can make a difference in ourselves. But go ahead.
I think that's true. Lastly, okay, so now we've been at this for over 2 hours at this point. So this is our biggest episode of the
we have
season
a
so
lot of-
far.
we have a lot of
This
reels.
is
It's
going
gonna
to
be a good one.
It's going to be a good one, but it's going to be an even better season because we have even more touchy subjects later on.
Yeah.
But talking about stereotypes, why do you think stereotypes exist?
I think they exist because they're easy. It's easy to generalize people, and generalizing people means less thinking, means you take less responsibility.
I think they serve a role. I don't think they're just nefarious.
They're not just bad.
I don't think they're just bad. I think there's so many things happening in life. There are so many things happening with every single person that we just automatically have to categorize things, whether
Yeah,
we like it or
I
not.
agree. I
We
think-
have to judge books by their cover to a certain extent, whether we like it or not.
I agree.
So I think they serve a purpose. Like, we categorizing
way?
people.
Like, give me an example.
For example, are you a safe person for me to be around?
Because I'm black? Is that what you're saying? But we're talking about stereotypes. That
Yeah.
is a legitimate stereotype.
that is a
dude. I've
legitimate
had people
stereotype.
lock their
Real.
doors
That is
when I come
hilarious.
That's true. That is a legitimate stereotype.
around. So, I mean, but you could say as a man in general, like women,
That's what I'm saying.
they start to walk faster when a man
When they
starts,
see a black man.
coming, or any man, like when they see a man walking behind them, especially one who may be physically imposing, especially if they don't think he's cute, they'll like try to get
Yeah.
out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they serve a purpose. For example, would
Yeah.
you do business with somebody who doesn't presented themselves as trustworthy? No, you wouldn't.
No,
But I don't think that's a stereotype, though. I feel like a stereotype
Kind of.
is, well, I think that's just intuition.
I feel
but
like that's an assumption.
yeah.
Because
What do
I
you think
feel
a
like
stereotype
stereotypes.
is?
Well, yeah,
It's an
You're
assumption.
right. Stereotypes is an assumption, but I guess
But
But
maybe
they're
just-
based on
it's
they're
just-
based on
maybe my thought is
historical.
on a larger scale,
Well,
like black people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're
dangerous,
based on
or-
because
Yeah.
stereotypes tie themselves a lot to like groups of people, and I think stereotypes are just like ideas about someone that is based on like preconceived, like
Notions.
historical
Yeah.
like, developed like notions or assumptions about a group of people,
Yeah.
whether they're like a race or a gender or something.
I agree.
Or like, here's, here's another
sports.
stereotype. Women are usually nice and harmless. BS.
Yep, that's a stereotype.
Women are often
I think that's too vague,
more
though.
vicious, not in a physical sense,
Yeah.
but in an interpersonal
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
They harm your reputation. They harm, well, I guess your reputation is the biggest thing that women usually harm, like who you are to each other or to other people or something like that. But again, it's
We've been talking about stereotypes all night then, I guess, essentially, if you
Yeah.
want to look at that.
well, no, gender roles and stereotypes are two different things.
But I think they intertwine a lot, though.
So I think stereotypes
Because we view a
are
woman as
needed.
someone who needs
They're
protection.
needed because we need to have generalizations, we
Correct.
need to
To
make
get
quick
through the world.
assessments.
Yes.
But they can become bad if we live by them and we see them as statements.
Thank you.
I don't think we should use
Or-
stereotypes,
or
though.
as fact.
I think stereotypes are bad.
I think
bro,
they can become
I think they
bad.
can
I
become
think they're
bad,
all
but I
bad.
think it's good.
No.
Like they serve a role.
I think of stereotypes, they serve a role in the sense of it's information. Like your emotions, like what you feel like when you get like your body sending you information.
Signal. Yes.
What you do with that information is up to you.
Yes.
So like these stereotypes, a lot of them have come with time. So what you do once you hear one, it's like that determines whether it becomes good or bad. Some people, and I believe there are bad stereotypes from
all
bad things.
I think they're all bad.
And there are good stereotypes. So it's more of just having, like with double standards, having a curious mindset.
What is a good stereotype?
Like a good stereotype?
Women are better caretakers of infants.
That's generally true.
Well, they're the mom. They're, of course,
I didn't say mom. I said women. If you had to give
like, without
a 2-year-old to a 28-year-old man or a 28-year-old woman, who are you giving it?
You're more inclined to do it for a woman.
Thank you.
But I
So,
think that's more
I
like
think the core of this is that stereotypes are assumptions.
Yes.
Whether good or bad, we should not live our life based on assumptions. We should
Thank
live our
you.
life based on facts.
so. Then it's bad. It's bad.
Okay. I
Okay,
mean, you
yeah.
can have that opinion, but
So I think it's just...
Here's the definition of stereotype.
I mean, I'm not arguing with you, Michael,
I
that it's
know.
bad or good. I'm just saying that at the end of the day,
they're
we
real,
need to look
and
at
we have
facts,
to deal with them.
acknowledge them, move on.
I think
Yes.
we should get rid of them. But here's the definition of it.
I
Hold
don't
on.
think we can get rid of them
There's no
because
way.
we're just...
I think we should. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think
Yeah,
the world
yeah,
would be
go
a better
ahead, go
place
ahead.
without it. Stereotype, by definition here on Google, is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing.
At the end of the day, it's all about, what's fact, what's not fact.
Yes.
How can I use this information to base my decision?
Exactly.
And the fact that there are so many bad ones. Like I said, the vast majority, I would say, are bad
Because
stereotypes.
stereotypes-
We cannot let that guide our dating decisions.
No,
Like,
because it's broken.
Never.
because it's broken. That's exactly right. That's why I wanted to bring it
Do
up.
you use stereotypes to guide your decision?
Do I use stereotypes to guide my
Like
decision?
if you're going to make
I
a
feel like
final
you
decision
should.
on something, whether it be someone who takes care of your kids,
Mm-hmm.
like are you using that to guide your decision at the end of the day?
I feel like we do in
We do, but I'm saying should we?
in unconscious ways, meaning we don't always.
Yes, I think
Of
we
course.
do, and I think we should. We should.
We should
test,
have it be
We
a-
should test them.
Yes, thank you.
Like
It should be a factor
like-
in the decision making formula.
Could you say
not-
that a stereotype is a hypothesis? Okay, so like for
I
example,
guess that would be a hypothesis. That's literally the definition.
Because,
I'm
like,
sorry.
for example, like
Duh.
if you think of like that caregiver example, like the guy and the girl, you give it to the girl for a week, you give it to the guy for a week, you come to your own conclusion, and that changes your view on that stereotype. So,
What are some stereotypes that like we might encounter in dating that we
Dating?
need to watch out for? I'll start.
that
For
women
example.
only want money.
I think men should disabuse themselves of that.
Yes.
Although I will say that in the world, it is rampant out there that is what women want. So I feel like Christian men need to look for women who don't resemble that, because you're going to be heading into that dating space or looking at to a girl as to she's only going to want to take this from me, or she only wants me for my money, or she's only going to want to take and say, oh, I'm the table, you have to give everything to me, and just whatever you can put on the table, I am that table, or whatever. You can't approach dating, especially from an Adventist perspective, from an Adventist Christian perspective, from that, because again, we aren't to be of the world. We're not supposed to be of the world. And the more that we, again, focus our energies more to what God aligned in our roles, and, take those double standards and, put them aside, and, are wise to them, we can disabuse our minds with that too.
Men, I think it takes them a little bit longer to appreciate, that beauty comes in all.
That's real.
Like, I feel like
I've evolved in
like women are more malleable when it comes to like stereotypes, but like some for men are like very fixed, and it takes them a little longer.
Give me an example of that.
Like, for example, like with looks, like I want a pretty girl, like prettiest girl, like like a lot of guys they aspire for that, like that's the biggest thing, and it's like usually with time
you realize
it's when guys start realizing that's not everything. Like, I actually need a girl that knows how to talk, like have a nice conversation.
I feel like girls get that way as they get older.
Girls have that thing too, like where I want a good looking dude. But I
know some girls, I'm like,
I feel like girls are more malleable. Like they come to that conclusion sooner than men. That's all.
Well, I mean,
that's all I'm saying.
Women, remember, we're the trendsetters.
Exactly.
We're the guides here. So for us to step aside from that requires a change in direction.
And also because,
and I think women have a more curious mindset.
A man's
in general.
attractiveness is not solely, or we kind of talked about this, like women, they can date up a lot easier because
that's true.
Men only
are you
look
kidding
for
me,
looks. Women or men only looking for the youthfulness and the physical attractiveness.
Generally speaking,
but
whereas women
they're looking. They have to have money, they have to have
physicality. Can you
physicality?
You have to have height,
status. You can't be like some dude who doesn't have more, who doesn't have a follower, or who doesn't have more people following him than he has followers, like me on Instagram. Anyone wants to follow me? But yeah, I think a lot of women, view the entire package of a man, more so than a guy.
Yes,
viewing
that's what I was saying. Women see more of a whole picture, whereas guys see less, and it takes them a little longer to start seeing the whole picture. Where women arrive here faster.
That just comes with maturity.
But I think that's just by default, though.
And
yes,
that's what I'm saying. It's not so much.
That's a good point. Yeah,
it's not so much that. I mean, women are more mature, but I think it's just because of the expectations and the gender roles that men have.
Because remember,
the provider.
A guy can grow into maturity, masculinity, and money, whereas a woman can't grow into looking prettier, youthful, and whatever.
And the guy who has the money, now all of a sudden he wants the hottest girl on the street.
And guess what? If he's masculine enough, he can.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah. But he's still sacrificing something.
Yes, his body count and his soul. I mean, I feel like every time you sleep with someone, you leave a piece of your soul with them. So
yeah. And I remembered something about when we were talking about women on the decline and men on the rise. Mm-hmm. I think as Christians, we need to we can't say that. I don't. And one reason is sure, on the physical aspect, as we get older, just in general, you don't look as youthful, but that wording, I think, it just ticks me off because it plays into the value of the person.
That's real.
You can't say women decline because your value does not decline.
Right.
If our
so in
value
terms of value,
is equal, so we have to change our language. I think that's what ticks me off the force. Yeah, but we say of course, but if we keep saying it, but yet we all know the power of language, and if it keeps getting perpetuated and perpetuated, and so it's no wonder that women suffer so much with self-esteem, where it's like you're hearing all around, as you get older, you're declining. Sure, they say physical, but it's like that plays into the value of a person.
That's wrong.
And so we shouldn't be saying that, period.
And then a lot of people, they feel that because their like worthiness or their value is tied up in solely in their physical attractiveness, then they have to get with more guys or whoever to kind of like establish that.
So
to
whether
everybody.
you're a guy or a woman,
and then they feel, because they're living that lifestyle, I wouldn't be surprised a lot of them have anxiety issues, depression, because like you said, there's soul ties there that
so as Christians,
we're not meant to live that way.
We need to be reframing. We need not even mentioning that, like we're all of value, and we can't keep saying that. You can't keep saying that.
I don't know.
Don't laugh.
That's so funny to me. I mean, I think you're right.
So it's perpetuating
what
the problem.
I'm trying to say is that, I don't know why I'm laughing, but I think it goes back to the fact that I think you're right. Like it's not about value; it's about how the world sees things from a sexual marketplace lens only.
And we shouldn't be considering that as Christians.
As Christians, we shouldn't be considering other people from a sexual marketplace value, period. Actually, I mean, specifically Ellen White says, you should be attracted by qualities alone, but you should not marry somebody you do not love. So she puts importance on the physical aspect, like you have.
She says,
like it's important.
She says, love someone you do not love.
Yes, specifically.
So you're alluding that to the physical.
Well, right.
I mean, I guess so. If she's saying the quality of it,
physical is a part of love, but at the end of the day, love is a truth.
And then circling back to the double standards of like the player and the hoe, we shouldn't. What do you call? Well, if we do encounter somebody like that in the Christian church, like as a past life, I specify as a past life. I don't think we should necessarily hold it against them, and I'm specifically talking to guys here.
Like what they've done in the past against them.
Let's say, for example, like I meet a girl and she's in the church and she's Christian, has a podcast. That's funny. That's funny that you say that.
Has a podcast,
or what have you. And then I find out, she's had 6 boyfriends in the past, and she slept with all 6 of them.
Yeah, you can't
now, some people would say, wow, that is a high body count for a Seventh-day Adventist Christian woman. And my point is like, let's not let that be the deciding factor if she saw Jesus and if she's, going the other way.
Because you can't judge people on their past. That's
their
past. I mean,
you shouldn't do it without judging through the lens that Jesus sees them too.
Yeah. Exactly. Like how is their life now?
Our past has a definite effect on who we are. Of course.
Yes, it does.
People, they want to say, "Oh, it doesn't matter," but
our past matters.
It does. However, like I said, it goes back to like, where is that person now in Christ?
Because in God we're a new creation.
Amen.
And like they have the born again, like I'm a born again virgin. And that's a real thing. Like,
you think so?
Yeah, I really do. I think that the more you get to know God, He fixes us in all aspects. Like, sure, on the physical end, no, but like
spiritually,
on the spiritually, yes. And like God changes your concept of sex, whereas before you saw it as this, but then as you get to know Christ, you learn how the real intention of sex, and your thoughts begin to change, so much so that let's say you do get married and you've had sex before, but you could feel like a complete virgin even though you know how this works, so I think you can't just write someone off based off what you've heard.
Agreed. And then just to circle back again, in that same vein, applying it to again dating, if you encounter somebody, like, for example, a man who cries a lot, don't let that deter you as a woman for somebody who can't protect you or something like that. That's not necessarily the case.
Crying is
Everybody's different. Just like there are more masculine women out there who want to be considered, even though they are the ones who want to wear the pantalones in the relationship.
Yeah.
So
it's more of emotional regulation, right? If he cries, is he regulating his emotions or not, right? Because there's more people that don't cry, but bottle it all up and just explode. So it's more of like, go for someone who's emotionally regulated. And crying is part of dealing with her emotions.
what would you say the female version of that would be for a woman who wants to wear the pantalones? What would be the balance to that? Because you said, as a man, regulate your emotions.
Women need to regulate their emotions too.
No, but I'm talking about specifically of like women who want to wear the pantalones.
In a relationship?
Yeah. That's a double standard where it's like...
Or a double standard where... That's a double standard where women can't wear the pants? Is that what you're saying?
Or like, it is usually preferred for the man to lead.
Oh, and then it's looked upon when a woman wears the pants. That's a double standard.
And that is a double standard. So what I'm saying is that, you know, if you're a guy and that's something that attracts you, that is attractive to you, you don't necessarily need to shy away from that.
Yeah, okay.
Although, as a woman, like you were saying, if you're a feminine man, regulate your emotions. And what I'm saying is, well, if you're
I
more...
didn't say a feminine man. He just has those qualities more.
Okay.
Like, for example,
those qualities. So the counter to that for a more masculine... a woman
who has more masculine traits.
We didn't even plan that. The counter to that would be what?
To not discard her as just because she doesn't...
No.
Wouldn't it be the opposite?
No, to still respect your man. Even though you were wearing the pantalones in this relationship.
Yeah, because it doesn't disregard your gender role, especially as a Christian. Like, your traits don't disregard your role.
Right. Don't disrespect your guy.
I think that it's learning how to, like, you know, especially when you're dating, learning how to, like, when's someone's more in their feminine energy, like someone may have to be in their masculine. If a guy's going through a hard time and he's crying, you know, and the girl can be that you know, like that strong rock, you know, that's more, you could say it's considered a more masculine trait. You know, there's that trade-off of learning. It's a dance.
Man, we talked a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I told you on the first episode this was going to be...
topic.
This one was going to be hot.
But it's a topic that needs to be discussed.
It does. True. And it needs to be discussed more. And I feel like I don't have a lot of people to talk to.
About this.
Yeah. Like, you know, we could talk about this a lot because you come back and bring something.
Right.
But usually, like, people don't think about this stuff. So, like...
Don't marinate.
So I just end up giving a sermon on my beliefs. And it's like, I want you to talk back.
They're like, wow, that's so cool.
Challenge me.
They're like, seriously, wow.
Or, like, bring something. Bring a thought. Like, it's not about right or wrong. It's more of a conversation.
Right.
And I feel like we need to encourage that more of all topics of, like, bring something. It's not about what looks aesthetically pleasing or what's not going to get me canceled. Let's talk.
Well, I think it's good to talk about these things so, like, we can... I mean, because, like, these conversations, when I say they need to be had, I mean that for real.
Yeah.
Because
we're having them.
We don't go anywhere. We stay in these, like... The reason why the feminist movement existed is because someone decided to have a conversation about it. Like, we have to talk about it. Reason why I'm here and not somewhere picking cotton is because someone sat down and was like, yo, we don't want to do this anymore. Let's start to plan how to get out of here. Right? We got to have this conversation so we can, like,
Here's
progress.
the thing. I feel like a lot of people say this, we need to have a conversation. We need to have a conversation.
But they don't.
But here's the thing. Conversations in and of themselves don't produce change. conversations need to lead to
action. Exactly.
Need to lead to action.
Need to have an end point. Which today, this conversation brought about the different thoughts of like, don't disregard X, Y, and Z. Be more patient with X, Y, and Z. Lead with what do you call it? I forgot where I was going, or the conversation led to the conclusion of lean more towards the energy and the design that was designed for you. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's communicating that was the end goal of this conversation. Yeah. Now, what are some actions that you guys feel we can take in our own individual dating lives to put these the idea of aligning to God's design with gender roles, with this, double standards and stereotypes? How can we use that in our dating lives specifically?
In our dating life, specifically, I think becoming more of a curious mindset, being purposeful with that curious mindset. And that some people may say that's not an action. That is an action.
Because you take an active role.
And you're putting yourself in a new frame of thought. And you start seeing the world differently. Where it's like, you're more curious as to, that's interesting. Whereas, oh, nope, that's a stereotype. Back up. So that in and of itself, like, change our thoughts, we change our actions. So one thing is changing our thoughts on this, having a more curious mindset. And I think from a Christian standpoint, talking to God about it and challenging him, like, hey, God, like, I just encountered this stereotype today, or I just got in a fight about like feminism with someone. like this is what I think. This is what I think is right. Like, but at the end of the day, like, I know your way is right. Like, I know your ways are better than mine. And like, show me what to do next. I think that's a very tangible action item as Christians. And we see that in Psalms, like we're studying the book of Psalms now. And it's so interesting how these people, like, they're like, chop them up, God, like, bring justice.
Chop them up.
Literally.
Bring out the chopper.
But at the end of the day, at the end of the psalm, they're like, but you're God, and you're the one that does justice. It's like bringing everything to God and like reminding ourselves that like he's the one that's going to show us the way. And that in and of itself influence our actions.
Amen. It's real.
Right?
Yeah, hold on. I'm trying to find this verse here. I got it, though. Yeah, so for me, Romans 12, verses 1 and 2, it says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And verse 2, and be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And see, like, this whole thing we've been talking about, we haven't named the episode yet, but this is all like social stuff. We talked about like gender roles. We went like into history. We went like, all over the place. Like why these things happen, like how society has shaped how we view, like the other gender, how we like, want to date and what's like acceptable and what isn't acceptable, like male masculinity, femininity and stuff like that. For me, I have to like remind myself like, hey, like I don't have to, like have tons of dating experience to feel like I'm a man or that I'm masculine enough, right? I don't have to have a body count in the double digits to, feel like I'm a man, right? Same for women. Like if you're a woman, you don't have to feel like you need to be sleeping around or having, multiple boyfriends to feel like you're attractive and beautiful and things like that. Like these are worldly standards. These are worldly issues. And don't want to like, like ostracize and judge people, who have done that. But, from a Christian point of view and like how the Bible teaches us we should live, like these things that the world is doing, like we should not have like any like saying them. I mean, not saying that we should not have like any part in that, but we shouldn't also like think that we should, right? Like we should like from the very beginning, like, understand that, the way the world's view us is not how God views us, right? And like, if I remind myself that, like, I feel like that'll change like my whole outlook on dating and how I value myself as a man, right? And so, like, remembering to not like conform myself to the world is like very important, because like at the end of the day, that's like kind of what all the issues are. It's like worldly issues. It's people, it's a world that is moving away from God. And so we have to remind ourselves to get closer to God.
It's more of how can we be the difference through our actions. I was reading a quote from the lesson from Ellen G. White. It says, "Do not miss an opportunity to be a blessing." Like, however it may be. And it's like, in the dating space, we're called to be different, and we are called to bless in a way. I don't know.
No, yeah.
Josh?
And the renewing of your mind, that's like another key part of the verse. Like, allow God to change your thoughts, change your mind, your passions, your desires. Like, these worldly standards of dating and masculinity and femininity, they aren't found in Christ. The real answer for a real masculine man, the real answer for a woman who is like feminine. It's weird saying that about God, but like, we already kind of talked about that. That's where the example of a godly, woman comes from. It's from God. Like, he created women, right? Like, so that's who we need to align ourselves with. And then, like, once we do that, and realize that, I think we'll be in a good spot.
And I think, before you go, Josh, I think that also in our churches, we need to start educating like younger people, educating ourselves into what God really wants, not just don't do this, don't do that.
That's why this podcast exists.
Which is what we see usually, but rather let's start having conversations in the church about this stuff, because since we're not having conversations in the church, we are being conformed by the world because they have plenty to say.
Exactly. Very
so we gotta advocate to our pastors and stuff to
stop being scared,
to provide more education and to focus on God.
That makes me think. That makes me think that in the future we could provide a program, if we put our minds together, that young adults, pastors, or pastors in general can ask us to come and talk to young adults about these things as like a resource that they can come to. And that's one thing I'd like to go and talk about these things.
Or at least be a catalyst where we can go and talk to them. And obviously we're not as experts, but like, make them curious so that they ask more questions. And
we're not experts, but we've put in the work.
And I think it's just to an event like this, it'd be like we become a bigger team. It'd be nice to have like a pastor.
That's true.
Like a psychologist, like people with like more knowledge and education and experience, other than just experiences that we've had. But it would be a good first step to start going to churches to talking about the importance.
Have a pastor edit for us. No, I'm just joking.
No, what he's referring to is the fact that we're looking for an editor right now. So
wink,
if
wink,
you
are
an editor and are interested in helping us edit the podcast and other content that we have down the pipeline, we'd love to talk to you. So reach out and we will put you to work happily.
And it's good for a good experience, good resume builder. Say you edited for a podcast, a successful one.
That's true. Guys, how about we wrap this up with a word of prayer? Doc, I think it'd be appropriate if you lead us out.
Father in heaven, Lord Jesus, thank you so much, because you are the ultimate example of everything that we need to aspire to be. Lord, thank you because in the world full of noise, full of stereotypes, full of double standards, full of dysphoria of what gender roles are, Lord, thank you because you're a constant and you never change. And you are the standard. Lord, help us to focus on you, to look to you every day, not to get distracted by the subtleties or the injustices, but rather just trusting in you and your guidance, so that in the dating space, Lord, we can grow closer to you and get to know the other person as well. Thank you because you are always our teacher and you never let us down. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.